Hey everybody, welcome back to the Combat Chain. I am your host, Patrick, a full-fledged member of the Assassin's Guild Shaw, and with me as always is my co-host, Adam, executive producer of Combat Chain Studios, Philip Chuck. Adam, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Pat. The Team Cup has just kicked off, and I am very excited. And I'm not talking about the FIFA World Cup, but in fact, the Flesh and Blood Team Cup. Yeah, that's been a blast. Yeah. That's been a blast so far. That's been a blast to work on from the administrative side so far.
So we've been kind of hinting at it for a little while. But we kept it under wraps, basically because we have been bothering. It was originally Tyler Broughton and then the guys over at Fab Foundry since May. Since we cornered Tyler in New Jersey, and we're just like, make us part of this more than we were already. We want in, and that expanded into the role that we have right now. All right, and we kicked it off with the live selection special for the Fab Team Cup. So you and I got to host with Tyler and Jesse from the league, and we ran through the teams, picked the pools, picked the teams, and ran through the rosters. And it is stacked. It's so scary. Every single one of these teams is just filled with killers and just great players.
It's doing that video is a blast, and for sure we're gonna have some great matches this season. It's really unfortunate with kind of like with all the matches going on in these first couple weeks, it's unfortunately impossible for us to bring all the action to everyone, but I think if everything works out, I guess by the time this episode airs, I don't know if we're going to be able to really pump this all through the podcast, but hopefully this Friday we've got in the works. Nothing's set in stone yet, but some sort of a feature broadcast we're going to be doing.
We're working on a Friday night fight special. We got a main event. We just got to work on the undercard. Hopefully, if we get it together, there'll be a nice promo. Bring my wrestling announcer voice to it, and see if we can't hype it up a little bit. But that's gonna be kind of the name of the game. They've given us. Maybe we're just kind of taking it, but we've taken the bull by the horns a bit here. We've been waiting all year to do this. Now it's time, and we're running with it. So you're going to see us on the Fab Team Cup channel as much as we can get on there, which will be a lot. They're going to have to kick us out. It's like, you ever go to the karaoke bar and just get drunk and just want to sing all the songs, and they just got to pull you out? That is going to be me and play-by-play, but sober. They're just gonna have to drag me out of the bar, even though I got one more tune in me, I swear. But it's gonna be a great time. And on top of that, we have a team. We've got Team Combat Chain, and we'll talk about that in a second. But I do want to bring in our guest this week. Our guest today is a staple of the Flesh and Blood community. He set the meta in week 1 of RTN 2021 last season with his winning mid-range Katsu list. He was a featured rider for the Wraith Times. He placed 18th at the Calling Charlotte and is the head guild master of the Fighters Guild himself. He is good friend and mentor to yours truly and many others. Max Thomas, thank you for coming to the show today.
No, thank you guys for having me, man. It's a pleasure. I really love what you guys have been doing, and it's an honor to be a part of it, so thank you.
Now, people might not realize this, but Max and I had earlier in the year, a wonderful, deep conversation, about 45-minute interview, and I completely botched the post-production and lost all the footage, and it is it has killed me inside ever since. So this is a hole in my heart that is finally being filled, and I've wanted Max to have his time, and now it is. Ironically, I was really sick at that time, and we had a couple episodes where I was just like froggy and losing my voice. I am sick again. So I got like a little frog in my throat.
I am sick as well. So it's okay.
It's just a killer. It's the holiday season. But yeah, since we're all here, we're all friends. I wanted to kind of take a couple minutes and relax. And I want to know who's played some good games lately. Adam, have you played some good Flesh and Blood games lately?
Have I played any good games lately? Let me see. Like I'm still not getting in the reps I want to be getting in right now. Like it actually there's a little part in my heart that's kind of sad right now because I remember once upon a time hearing this interview with Dalen Mack and I think it was actually on Instant Speed where Dalen was like, I play 10 games a day. And I took that to heart. I was already trying to play a lot up until that point, but just hearing another heavy hitter just like that commit to like that's their part of their training regime is they have to play 10 games a day. I've always taken it to heart that like getting a lot of reps is important, and for sure for like a lot of different reasons it is, you know, like muscle memory and things like that, just making good habits and understanding how things play out. Like the more reps you get, the better you're gonna understand it. But just beyond that, like I always get sad when I'm not getting a lot of games. Though it's starting to pick up again. We're finding time to go to armories and we're getting Talishar games in here and there. But at the end of the day, that was a long-winded way of saying I want to be getting in good games, but I'm not right now.
That's all right. That's all right. Max, have you been getting some good Flesh and Blood in here?
Well, I want to say yes, and the last couple of days I have, but to be honest with you guys, I've been on a little hiatus since Nats. Been going through some real life stuff, you know what I mean, and some major life changes, but it's all good. But you know, I think the game is in a really good spot right now, and the good games are there. You just got to get on there and play them, you know. Adam, it's funny you mentioned the Dalen Mack interview. I also saw that. I was like, man, that's inspirational, you know. So the week before Nats, I actually was like, okay, I'm just going to pick Prism and I'm going to play 100 games the week before Nats. And I did. And I ended up audibling to Oldhim anyways. But, you know, it was still like I learned a lot just playing that amount of games per day. I mean, I was probably averaging 20 games per day. Which is a lot of games. That's a lot. That's a lot.
So. When you're going, you I feel like I see you playing some version of game. It like I'll go into work and I'll see you, like I like to lurk on Discord while I'm working, and I'll watch like everyone kind of backseat drive on like the test games, and that's like at 8:30 in the morning, and then it's like 7:30 at night, and like it's like you and a couple others that are just have never left that room, just have the table on. Sometimes it's flipped and spinning, but you're all just still there. It's like man, that's a lot.
That's the best way, honestly. For what was it, Everfest? We had our little group came up with Matthew Washaball came up with Starvo, but we had that in the group. We had
Chris Ray came up with that awesome Viserai list that I won a pro quest off of, and there was some great things that came out of that group.
For sure. And really that's all just man hours in.
For sure.
Right. If you want to think about it, I think if you really want to be good at Flesh and Blood, like you really need to get massive amounts of man hours in, so it's really hard to do it as one person. I think playing 10 games a day is a great way to do that. But if you can have 10 of your friends also playing 10 games a day and kind of coagulating that data throughout the day on like Discord chats, you're really going to skyrocket in terms of ability and just knowledge. Because at the end of the day, what is this game other than kind of like a knowledge game or something? You know, like you deal with like math while you're in the game, but there's a whole other side of the game that never stops when you're not playing the game, which is like metagaming, I guess is what you could call it.
Yeah, definitely. Right. And I think that's where you get a bunch of the, you get these top dogs, right, that have separated themselves. They have almost intuitive, deep understanding of that, right, that mathematical foundation of the game. And they're just almost instinctually able to run through the numbers of the value of their turn cycles and make the decisions to, best affect their entire game and be able to pitch, what to pitch, what to block, when to attack, when to bluff, when to hold back an arsenal. And, like Michael Hamilton was on not too long ago, and hopefully we're going to get him back. He's a world champion. We're going to get the world champion on here. He did get back to me. He said he's got to chill out a little bit. So we're going to touch base after the holiday, Thanksgiving, at least, and see where he's at. But he will come on. But his point was, all the micro decisions in a given match. If you're right, Max, you make 110 correct micro decisions in a game, and I make 105 correct micro decisions in a game, you have the edge because you've been able to make that incremental advantage over time based on the more correct decisions. And that's all that, how does the damage matrix fit into what I'm doing, and turn cycle value. And it's super, it really can, it's mentally fatiguing until it becomes like muscle memory.
It is. And I think, back to my original point also is, you have that fundamental value in mathematical sense, but when you can combine that with like your finger on the pulse of the game at the current moment of that tournament that you're testing for, that's when the magic happens. You can make better decisions, but at the end of the day, if you don't have sideboard cards in your deck for the most played deck, it's probably not going to go as smooth.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a combination of both. So I like to think that I'm really not that good at the math side of the game. I kind of just go on impulse there. Like, it's funny because you guys had Frank on, and he mentioned that he was talking to someone that was a good player, but never like counted the actual damage you could do in the turn. And that was me.
I had a suspicion
because I was just in awe, like, oh wait, you actually count how much damage you can actually do in this turn if you don't block. Like, wow, that's crazy, because I just don't do that. I'm just like, it's good. It's got to be good enough. Oh, it's more than 15. All right, yeah, I'll just roll it. So yeah.
I play the same way. I am not as successful, so maybe my math is even worse.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty washed up now. So that's, as I start going into training for Season 3, Pro Tour 3, that's really where I'm looking to elevate my game, is the mathematical side.
Yep.
I think a lot of people, if they want to elevate their game, that's probably where they should start as well. And it all starts with, how much damage is my opponent presenting this turn and how much can I present? Because when you break the game down, I think each Fab game is kind of, outside of weird matchups like Oldhim versus Dromai and stuff, it's kind of almost, let's just take an aggro mirror, for example. Whoever can present lethal first has a massive edge, right? That's why you like to go second in the aggro mirror. So being able to take that information and kind of leverage that in a match, it helps a lot. And if you're not counting the numbers, it's going to be harder to do that, right?
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's where I was telling Frank in that interview that, my weakness is that both that math edge, right? I counting my cards and figuring out how much damage I can do, and then figuring out the puzzle of my opponent's turn cycle and realizing that, right, this 3 block here is worth more than, right, that block is worth more than my attack. on that turn, and this is the ideal move and the optimal thing. Because I have, even now, I haven't. I've kind of switched gears a little bit from Fi. But boost dash is like my nemesis as Fi, and it just is. I don't know what it is, but they always seem to get that double throttle, like just gross 30 damage turn. They have the max velocity. They have all the things that they needed. It seems pretty consistently, and I'm always losing that race. And I'm convinced that if I just put my blue brand with Cinder Claws, that 2-block would have made me live, just that much longer.
I mean, yeah, you're probably right, but I think even with the new Pulse Wave Harpoon, I think that matchup gets a lot harder after.
Yeah, for sure.
So I really like where Dash is at.
Dash is almost. When people start
the math thing, right?
Yeah,
it's like it's not always as straightforward as just raw numbers, because I have an Oldhim hand. I have an Oldhim hand with an Ice card, an Oakenold, a Staunch Response Blue, and a Pummel. Something like that. It's like it's not so straightforward what to do there, right? Like, do I block out Oakenold and swing my Ice Hammer? Probably. Do I pitch the Ice card to Staunch Response and block with my shield? So I think when you look at a player like Michael Hamilton, that's really where he's excelling. Because those are the micro decisions that matter the most, like kind of like in the margin hands where it's not so clear cut, Like obviously with 5, you have like an Art of War, Spreading Flames, you're going to go for it, right? I'll take whatever.
Sure.
But the marginal hands is, I think, where you really accrue value by making the correct blocking and gameplay actions. So trying to look at that a lot more as well.
It almost feels like like in blackjack, like a counting cards type scenario where if you assign the correct value to your opponent's hand in your hand and then know how to apply that into the turn cycle, you can end up right over the top more often than not. If you're whatever +3 -3 +3 -3 +3 -3,
I think you're right. Yeah, that's
and going through and if you can monitor it, and this is where Hamilton comes in, right? So if Hamilton's got that countdown, right, or he's got that count and he's got it in his head, and now he's tracking the pitch stack of both of them, but oh man, if he's been doing that kind of math, he knows that he's pitched more value than they've pitched, because maybe he's reduced it down to that basic number. How do you count cards in Flesh and Blood? I think I just did it. I just got to figure out how to make it work.
Yeah. No, I like that idea. I think that's something
that's how you get, because there's the math in terms of like aggro, where all right, I have a 12 damage hand, but if I have a force multiplier in Art of War, it's a 20 damage hand, right? And if I have another force multiplier in Spreading Flames, it's a 25 damage turn, or and +7 on Mask of Pouncing Links if everything works out. That is one type of math, but and I think this is where the men separate from the boys, or the women from the girls, or whatever. The elite, the common player to the elite is taking that different kind of math, right? That turn cycle total value, which I think is a concept that is so right. That's the daunting one. My 9 plus your 7 might not seem that much, but if I add a discard effect, right, that's actually a +4 swing of life, right? If I have Oasis Respite is a 5 damage swing, how do I leverage that? I have to, you have to lose a life, you have to be in a negative life total, which adds to adds another variable to it, and then the best way to get that +5. But that's where like Icelander comes into play, right? The Wounded Bull is valuable in a certain, it's most valuable in a certain time. When do you play that to gain the most value? When the turn cycle is such that your math is there, where that 8 is more than their X, right? Whatever that ends up being, and if you repeat that turn after turn, you're winning.
Yeah. Right. And I think that's kind of really difficult for people who don't have a lot of time in the game to kind of grasp that concept of like card, turn cycle values and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And I think, going back to Hamilton, because let me preface this by saying, I was talking earlier with some of my testing teams and buddies and stuff like that. And I think a lot of us were kind of jaded a little bit with Flesh and Blood after the Fi and Stubby Hammers meta season, because we were just playing Fi for a long time and it seemed very RNG based and it just wasn't as captivating gameplay. And when you see someone like Hamilton make a run that is so utterly dominant, it makes you realize actually like, okay, this game is clearly skill based at the highest of highest levels. Like, it's really not RNG based at all. It's about making correct decisions with your deck choice and playing a deck that can mitigate the variance of the RNG decks and, multitudes of things. But I think it was really inspiring to see Hamilton go on that run.
Absolutely. Right. I mean, it really helped, right? It helped kind of mitigate some of that, those kind of feel bad thoughts. And there was still some, like Chris Alley taking out Dan Rutkowski, right? That's one of those games where you're like, this is where like the bad stuff could occur. Here's a one turn OTK situation, very little interaction, inevitability from almost turn 0. It was just delayed gratification at the end, but it was only one turn delay, right? As soon as you get the Force of Nature on top of everything.
I mean, that stuff is going to happen as long as they allow archetypes like that to exist at the higher ends of the competitive play, which I think is fine, because if everybody's just playing Iyslander versus Iyslander, yes, the games are very long, complex, and extremely intense, and every decision really matters, but they're kind of boring sometimes.
It's such a chore.
Yeah, so it's a chore. So people play in different ways for fun, but
for sure.
I think the beauty of these card games, right, is like you can kind of choose how you want to play, what you find fun, what you excel at, where your strengths lie, and you can kind of take that and then apply it to the meta and find out, how your run is at the next tournament. And I think that's kind of what is really captivating about card games in general. It's always funny. I always find the same types of people like me play these games. You just find people that are very similar to you in mindset, right? Like kind of 30-year-old high, upper middle class. It's like the same type of people that play, and I'm not trying to stereotype or leave anyone out, but I find that a lot of these people congregate in these types of games, and it's just kind of interesting.
Yeah, it definitely, and Flesh and Blood does seem to skew towards, or it skews towards experienced Magic player disenfranchised with
that,
with the game. So growing up with TCGs, becoming an adult, and then moving on to what feels like a more adult skewed game in some elements of it.
Oh, I agree with that. Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's just more skill intensive. I don't know if you guys have played Magic recently, but
try to avoid it. Yeah. I was playing Arena for a little bit, but I only play Historic Brawl, and I have like a couple just ridiculous decks that I like to play. But even that, it's not. I come from casual Commander, and like we just had Fino on, who said he comes from Commander as well, but he played CEDH on top of everything else. I was very much I only want to play 7s, and if you play a counter spell, I hate you. Like that is my that is my version of EDH that I want to play.
I mean, I'm a masochist, so I play standard and historic on there. So
yeah,
I do my days every day, but I feel like the games are kind of decided, especially in standard, like off of your opening hand and then like the next 4 cards drawn.
Sure.
And I mean, that can be fun sometimes too, right? But I think if I'm looking to really invest time into a game, energy, mental capacities, all that stuff, that time away from home, my kids, it's got to be more than that. I want to be able to next level. That part is really fun to me. Like if this is like a mental game, it's akin to chess. Like I need a little more than my opening hand to do that
for sure.
But I think a lot of people feel the same.
Absolutely.
That's why this game's taken off more than any other card game I've ever seen. So
it is pretty good. It's
pretty good. Pretty great game.
It's one of those ones. I played Magic for 25 years. Never wanted to talk about it with anybody. Right. And Flesh and Blood was good enough where I couldn't shut up about it. So,
absolutely.
Here we are.
I have a lot of extracurricular stuff with Fab. We got the Discord. We have the original Discord. I got local play groups. I never went to FNMs or anything like that, but I go and play my armories. It's just a different experience, man. And I think it's because the game is a little more cerebral. So it just hooks me a lot more.
I feel like the game and the community have kind of learned from the errors of the past, and I think that the community is kind of one of the selling points. I feel.
Oh yeah.
There's just I kind of joke sometimes that it feels like a cult sometimes. It's just everyone's so happy all the time that we're one big Kool-Aid drink away from the end. But it's true though. We're not about to all kill mass suicide, but we are super happy to be around. And like if you look, Flesh and Blood Twitter, I think is the perfect example of that. In my eyes, it's such
if you're not on that, you need to get on that.
Yeah, get on Fab Twitter. If you don't have Twitter, get on Twitter just for the Fab. You can there's lists and stuff. You can filter everything else out. Just find the people who talk about Fab and hang out there. And it's a great time.
It is great. It's easy to join too. Just find y'all's Twitter or my Twitter. You can just go look at who I follow.
Yep.
You can you're in it immediately.
Yeah, just make sure you follow the Combat Chain. Pat Smash Good has a bunch of international journalists and all sorts of just extreme political ideologies we don't need to get into, and Flesh and Blood. So I have gotten back into the saddle recently. I've rejoined some of the leagues online, started trying to play some games again, and I am a competing member of Team Combat Chain, living my pipe dream of being in the Fab Team League. It only took the content creator version of nepotism to get me on, but we got there, exploiting my position on the Combat Chain to make sure I can play.
That's what it's all about.
That is living the dream. But I have been getting my ass kicked, specifically by Icelander in all formats. I've been testing so separately. I'll talk about what my testing has been doing lately, but I've been playing Constructed, Blitz, and Clash. New format. We had Ethan Van Sant on recently. So the Tavern Brawlers. Shout out to the Tavern Brawlers. They got a couple leagues going. And my old standby Kitchen Table has their monthly league. But I've been just railroaded by Icelanders all month. Blitz and CC just can't. I don't know what it is. If you're at like 15 life, you're in lethal range. It seems. They'll just. They'll break Stormstriders. They'll do some garbage of an Emberus Scolding out of the arsenal. They'll Waning Moon, and then they'll break Stormstriders and Aether Ice Vein you, and they'll break Metacarpus Nodes. And I think it's legitimately, if you have like AB1, if you're at like 11, you're just dead. and that's just what it is, and it's terrible, and I hate it, and I don't know what to do about it. But
yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I think she might be a little bit oppressive in Blitz and CC. And I think that gets back to she is the deck that's best at mitigating the RNG variance from the hyper aggro decks, as well as just stopping everyone else from doing stuff too, but also putting you on a time clock, right? Yeah. She has inevitability as well with her. I believe it's the Ice Eternal combo with Amulets of Ice and all that good stuff.
Yeah,
it's just really good. Really strong.
I found out the hard way that Ice Eternals like stack, like you can create the Frostbites. I had one player. It was like Ice Eternal on the stack for 0. Like play it, and then at instant speed, play another Ice Eternal for or X is 4. Create the Frostbite right with the fuse. Create the Frostbites that the top Ice Eternal resolves. Then you go in the lair. The Frostbites are there. The first Ice Eternal on the bottom of the stack sees the new Frostbites and deals the damage.
Oh boy!
Like it's just gross.
I know that. Yeah.
So yeah, that tracks.
Yeah. So it's really gross if you have the double Ice Eternal attack.
That's pretty good.
It just seems like you have to be 10 points or at least ahead in life, and you can't be disrupted. In most cases, it seems.
I'm not really sure the right answer to beat her other than board state like Dromai.
Yeah, and even that seems to be a little difficult these days from our colleagues. Yeah. But I've done a deep dive into Arachne, and I know she's not. They're not the S tier deck, and I'm okay with that. But I am having a lot of fun testing with it. I do think that this I call it proactive fatigue, and it's really mill, right? Mill is probably the best strategy going there, and I do think people have been kind of approaching it from I don't know. I guess you'd call it control. It's like a slow burn fatigue, where it's like a ton of sigils, a ton of D-reacts, and just trying to like old school Guardian fatigue your opponent, and it just seems kind of counterintuitive from the build actually. But people have also been trying to like go super wide and aggro with them, and it just like we talk about how like Fi has like several force multipliers, and you can do like a 30 damage turn, and like that's the win con there, right? That is the wide aggro that you want out of that kind of deck, and Arachne is not capable of doing that. But if you take a look at their signature cards, I think the one that kind of identifies the strategy the best is Eradicate, right? Eradicate banishes X cards, where X is the amount of damage that is dealt from Eradicate that turn. So like a tall Eradicate can banish 25% of your opponent's deck in one fell swoop if done correctly. If you're able to go super tall, they don't block or something like that, and that is what puts you into a better state to win the game more than anything else.
I like Arachne a lot. A lot of me and my friends, we often were talking, this is kind of before Iyslander took the reign, but there was almost a fundamental issue with Oldhim pre-nerfs and stuff like that, like a hyper defensive Oldhim where you could just fatigue all of your opponents. And we identified that as like a fundamental problem if they ever wanted to dial down the aggro decks a little bit, so they weren't as like high roll 54 damage Briar turns. If they ever were to dial that back, there'd be a fundamental issue with the game. And I think Arachne is a really unique answer to that. You can't really, those decks can't do that to Arachne. Arachne just slow bleeds them out. You don't get a pitch stack. So I think that the devs, like, they're extremely good at this game. It just is going to take them time to get it to where they need it to be. And not that it's, not close to where it needs to be, but I think that we're just looking at a lot of the issues that we've seen in this game so far is because there's just not enough cards out yet. if that makes sense. Not enough heroes,
Sure.
not enough cards, not enough strategies. And because even right now, we're kind of looking at, if you want to top 8, you have to play a handful of heroes, like you're not doing it with Azalea. It's hard to do it with Lexi, Rhinar, all these things. And I think it's because there's certain heroes that just do broken things.
Yeah. Yeah, right. And it's easier for some of these heroes to do those broken things.
Absolutely.
Right. I look at Briar almost as like Briar and Rhinar it feels like they have a very swingy variance to them. Like Briar can sometimes mitigate that a bit, but if you look at what folks did at Lille, right, with hitting tomes of Arknights, hitting Sonatas at the right time, right, just take right, that so easily can go the other way. And we joke. I was on Briar and Viz going into Nats, but like I couldn't hit a Tome of the Arknight to save my life. It just wasn't going to happen, and I wasn't going to do that to myself in live competition. It just was not happening.
The interesting thing to me about Folk's run at Pro Tour 2 and his ultimate win was he has such a strong grasp on the game, where his deck was like, let's just streamline the best aggro deck at the time, add more RNG to it, right? Like, let's just high roll these games, but let's play Belittle to give it some, punch consistency as well. And it just worked amazingly well for him. And I think that's kind of, to me, not exactly the opposite end of the spectrum of Hamilton, but it's a, how do I put this?
Well, it is a little bit, right?
It's
Hamilton,
kind of opposite end, but it's still like the same level of like skill, right? You under like a high level of understanding of like the metagame and what's going on, and also like turn cycle value and all that good stuff. It's just kind of on the opposite end of the style of deck. Right.
Yeah, for sure. Right. Folks was taking the route of like it. My turn is not just my hand, right? If my turn is my hand, it is a fair below rate turn, right? But he built the deck in such a way that his turn cycle was always more than the sum. Right, the sum is more than of the parts, and that's where things like the boots came into play, being able to flash in the non-attack actions, and the draws. Right, I am going to play in such a way where if I can extend my hand, it improves my turn exponentially. Right, and if I hit those in ways where I'm hitting them when I want them to and not when I need them to, I'm in an even more advantageous position where, right, your opponent is forced in a spot to defend a certain part of your game and overextends or doesn't realize they're overextending, thinking that they're making the appropriate decision at the time, and then you add in that extra element of the flashed in thing, right? The action point you thought go again wasn't able to be wasn't able to happen there, but now Matt has entered put that extra variable onto the table that you're not prepared for, and now 8 to 12 more damage is on the board because of that.
Get your extra cards, gain an action point. I mean, Matt has such a strong fundamental grasp on card games in general, and I'll give a little pat on the back to myself here, but I've been a follower of Matthew Folks for a long time through Magic, and I saw him posting one day asking about Flesh and Blood, and I DM'd him, and he's kept playing from there, so that's how I know Folks and how he got to be a part of the clout chasing Discord and stuff,
So it's kind of like your Pro Tour win as well.
No, hell no. No. I wish that I could say that, but no. He's just very, very gifted at the card games. Yeah, amongst other things, He's smart
look, he's
as well.
Impeccable dresser, incredible cosplayer. His bench numbers are through the roof.
He's an incredible poker player as well. So just a well-rounded individual. Props to Matthew Folks. Congrats on your win, bud. It's nice to see.
I hope you're listening. Cheers to the last one.
He doesn't strike me as the podcast listener type, though.
Tell you what, though, even if I don't think he knew who we were, but he was like, "Fuck it, let's go," and gave us.
You guys have been a part of the Pro Quest testing team Discord since it had like 20 people,
Oh yeah.
That's true.
It's true. We are part of the old guard glory days.
The old guard, man, absolutely.
When it was, let's talk about that. That's good. Look, sure. We've had a nice conversation. Let's get into some interview stuff here. Hey, first and foremost, I'm asked this much earlier usually, but for those who don't know you, Max Thomas, who are you and how the hell did you get here?
Man, I am
it's a tough one sometimes.
It is a tough one. Okay, I'm just a guy from the
in the perspective of your flesh and blood journey. How did it start, and how did you get to where you are today?
Sure. So I started playing Magic. My friend took me under his wing. He was on the Pro Tour and stuff, and we had been hanging out for a long time since middle school. And this is probably 2011, so I was 20 when I started playing Magic. It was when Innistrad pre-release came out. I don't even know what year that was. I don't know. But it was Innistrad pre-release, the original Innistrad with Liliana the Veil. And I've been playing it since then. And I'm more of a competitive guy. I like to win prizes and make myself feel better by outplaying my opponent and stuff. And I saw Flesh and Blood announce that it was doing a Pro Tour, and I went all in that day. I actually had to borrow $1,000 from my little brother who's sitting behind me right now, and I went and bought like 2 cases or whatever, and I actually bought some like Monarch First Edition. I got gouged on that. I bought a box for like $50 after that. Yeah. But, the card art is beautiful. I started playing the game and I was like, man, this game is actually incredible. And I took it pretty seriously. I started, a lot of my success in life, if I've ever had any, but, I've looked up to people who are like the best at what I'm trying to do. And then I just immediately try and start talking to them and learning from them. So I wanted to play as many armories online as possible. I mean, this is 2021, right? Yeah,
right. Monarch First Edition, early 2021, right?
So I was
pandemic in full swing, online play at its peak.
Exactly. The main thing was the gauntlet with Brennan Patrick and Dante Delfico every Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern. And that's where I was at, man. And I saw Tower number 9 take it down like 5 times. Or I saw him take it down one time, and Brennan was like, man, he's taking it down 5 times in a row. I was like, I'm going to message Tower. And Tower number 9, man, he is just the nicest, coolest dude. And he gave me his Dorinthia deck list. I built it, and I started winning a lot, and just trying to understand the game. Then I couldn't ever beat like the good Iras, So I switched to Ira, and that's kind of where I really started to understand the game a little deeper with Ira. Turn cycle values, flick flack value, just value. Right. Her hero ability is value. And I started doing really well with Ira, and then RTN season started. I'd never really played CC. I'd played like maybe 3 games of CC as Dorinthia. But I went to my first RTN and I won. with Katsu, a control Katsu list that I saw Winton Bedford used to win the first ProQuest over in New Zealand. So I was like, that's, that looks really good. I'll play that. So I sleeved it up and I won my first RTN. I ended up beating Rob Seigel on Bravo in the finals. And that's probably the best thing I've ever done in the game.
That is a big deal. That's a big win from a high profile player on his signature hero.
But I will say the game was extremely new, especially in my local area. I only had, I'm not going to say 2 real matches the entire day, but I mean, Sam Ewan and Rob Seigel, and then Patrick Weiss. Those were like the 3 games that were the most competitive. I kind of, because I had played so much online, I had a large skill gap on the majority of the field at that point.
Sure.
So the game was pretty fresh, in my opinion, in my local area. So yeah. Then that, and then ProQuest season started. Right, that was after RTN season, I believe. But
they had RTNs, and then was there ProQuest?
Oh, and then it was nationals. Yeah, I wanted to go to nationals. Yeah. My son got very sick for the first nationals. I was pretty bummed I couldn't do that, but life happens. And then it was ProQuest season.
Yep.
So that is when I started that little Discord, and amongst between the RTN win, that kind of helped me start talking to more and more people like Rob, Brendan Patrick, Dante, Tower, some more folks was coming in. Who were some of the other people we had in the group?
Oh, geez. We had Grendel.
Grendel,
was
Grendel
in there from the jump. Bronson was in there from the very get-go. Matt W.
Yeah, Chris Ray, Matt W.
Right, Chris Ray was in there. I'm trying to remember his name. The Prism. We had 2 guys.
President.
President, and then there's one other guy I'm thinking of.
Dozer.
And then
no. There was 2 guys that
were. Core actually started. The core group actually started. It was a group chat on Discord between me, Grendel, Tower, Bestest One, which is Michael Conroe, Benson, and Rails. Rails, which is his real name is Earvoy Herzavet or something.
It's such a tough name. We were trying to say it on the player selection show.
Orvoy Headset, I believe, which he is cracked. That guy has been insane. And I apologize if I left anyone out of the from that core group. But from that core group, it grew into a group of like 30 people. And we actually had Starvo in that group, like before it was ever known. And Matt W actually won like a win a case the weekend of Everfest release. So
absolutely.
That was really cool.
Right. Okay. We knew Starvo was a problem before it was ever publicized. And then when it came out, we knew it was a problem. We knew it was going to blow up and that was going to be a problem. And then everybody started getting after it. And then people kind of reverse engineered it a bit, and all of a sudden the videos come out and it really blows up. But we know where it came from. It came from Matt W, and he shared it in our little group before it was ever known. He brewed it up himself. Yeah. And the first time I played against it, I knew it was a problem. Yeah, for sure.
And the first iteration actually had 3 Ardwars in it as well. Just to filter, basically, to filter more. And it was actually pretty sick too. But so that was really cool. And now we have how many people are in this now? I think it's close to 200. Yeah, it's a lot now. It's literally the best players in the world. I mean, we have Hamilton in there, Cale McCreath, Brennan Patrick, Yuanji, Michael Vang. I mean, just going down the list is just crazy. So it's really it's
a bit of a rite of passage now. Once you make it to a certain point, you get into You get into
I
the
think
Clout
so.
Central Station.
I agree with that. I mean, if you just look at the people in it, like Yuki Lee Bender, gosh, there's so many.
Well, yeah, I mean, we can go. I'm looking at it right now.
It's a lot. All the European players that are really good. Fino's in there.
Yep, Fino's in there. Jody Burney is in there. Matt Folks is
William
in there.
Kubik. Yeah.
Sam Dando, Pat Shaw. But there's a whole Trent McBride is in there. William Kubik, Alex Vore.
Kubik is huge. Alex Vore. Yeah.
Right, like it is right. It's a who's who.
Alex Vore is probably one of my favorite players in the game too. He's so cool, so smart.
He's great to play
wins. It's crazy. Not really. He just beats you so savagely. It's not that great to play against him.
I've been able to get one or two over him in the Fighters Guild here and there, which is always good to get one of those notches on your belt.
Shout out to Frank as well, because
the conductor.
Yes, Frank actually, that's the main one I was missing. He was in a core group as well of like 5-6 people that started with me, Tower, Benson, Michael, Grindle. But he's kind of taken the server and just really,
yeah, he's taken it and ran.
He's taken it and ran. So, props to Frank. He's really building that clout. So Clout
he's getting it.
Is the name of the server. If you can get in there, good on you. So
absolutely. Now,
Max,
that's
really cool. So
you've had ample opportunity, both in person and online, to gain a ton of useful perspective into the game, and that gives us our first community question from Anthony Del Taco Zacella. Shout out to Tony. We met in person in Pro Tour New Jersey. We played against one another, and we introduced each other with our real names, and then our Discord names, and realized that we are like good Discord buddies, and high fived. And Anthony, one of the more prolific XP grinders getting into Worlds, made it a point to get into Worlds, and was, I don't know where he started, but he one of the last opportunities I think anyone will ever have to grind online and through armories to get to the XP
Worlds. Yeah, and shout out to Anthony Del Taco. That's my boy for a long time. Congrats on that, by the way. But what's his question?
He said, with all the controversy over the last year about who has the best Flesh and Blood players in the world, with the results we saw at Worlds, who takes the crown? And he says, why is it Merca?
So, I mean, obviously the best player is Michael Hamilton. I think that is objectively true statement at this point. But I think per capita, it's got to be Europe. Per capita, it's got to be Europe. I mean, that's just a lot of talent in one spot. Those guys have a pretty good grasp on the card games. I think Folks, Jamie Faulkner, Rails, Christian. A lot of those guys are very, very strong at the game. But yeah, I'm a patriot, bro. I'll go with America. America, baby.
It does end up being really tough. I mean, if you get it down to the U.S., into the national scene.
Pete Ward for a check mark on Europe right there.
Yeah, right. The UK scene, right, in 2021, the UK scene wasn't as vibrant as it is now, but they had, right, Matt Folks won UK Nats in 21, 15-0, incredible run. One of the breakouts of Cheerios Breyer at the time there. In 2022, you have the game experience over the last year, and right, the UK scene now is thriving as much as anybody else, and you have like the Faulkners and the Wards Shamirs,
Lassie Janek, William Kubik, Pablo Pintor. I mean, it's just it's Lucas Shachecki, Zregor Kowalski. There's a lot, man. There's a lot. So I kind of
Absolutely.
lean towards that a little bit, but I'm gonna say it's America.
Excellent. God bless America. All right. We want to thank Max Thomas for coming on to the podcast. We had to cut that interview short for some technical difficulties. We'll have Max on again here in the near future. That was a great conversation we were having with him. And we actually had kind of a plan for that interview, and we just got that rolling with a conversation, and we scrapped the whole thing just let it ride. So thank you, Max, for coming on. I wanted to really go down that rabbit hole. Hadn't even touched on the Fighters Guild or anything like that. So lots left to talk about with Max. So thank you, Max, for coming on. We love you
so much.
Yeah. So we're gonna put a bow on it here. Let's talk some Fab Team Cup stuff. The Combat Chain will be running a ton of content, both on our YouTube page and on the Fab Team Cup page. The league games themselves, the featured games, we have a bunch of content creators coming together to make this content, and that Fab Team Cup channel is the hub essentially of that. So you'll see you'll see most of the stream games on that channel. We'll have some stream games on our channel, but we really want to focus that on the greater good, the international platform that is that cup platform. So we're honored to have such a prominent role in it. I hope we execute well and make everybody happy. I think we've got some big plans in the works that everyone's kind of behind. Look out for Friday night. If this comes out by Friday night, then if Friday Night Fights hopefully is happening. Main event right now is Calvin Holt versus Joe Colon, which is a great flesh and blood bout to look forward to. We're in the process of booking more matches for that night, and we're gonna make it kind of fun. If this is out afterwards, it was great. Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate it. And that's gonna do it for us tonight. So we're gonna go just into the plugs now. Unless I'm missing something.
No, you're good.
All right, let's wrap it up then. The Combat Chain is on YouTube. You can find us if you search The Combat Chain. Be sure to like, subscribe, and click the bell notification to know when the latest episode is uploaded. We are available on all audio platforms wherever you stream your podcasts. I believe that is still true now.
Yeah, I'm going to caveat that we're struggling with the migration from Buzzsprout to RSS. Some of the platforms aren't cooperating. They're saying that they should work and they're not working, so I'm trying to figure that out.
It is a work in progress. I do know, I think we're good. People were asking about Podbean. I believe we're on Podbean through the podcast directory index. That is one of the things on there, but we're definitely on Apple, Spotify. I think Google is still an issue.
Google's the one. Google's the big one we're struggling with right now.
Yeah. That only affects me. I feel like everyone else is on something else. I use Google Podcasts. But yeah, so we're scaling up, right?
You can go drive up our YouTube numbers.
Yeah, we're looking to get to 500. We're actually it's climbing steadily since the last time we looked. It's trickling through. Maybe by the end of the year we'll see if we can do it. But 500 is our goal. So if you're not subscribed, do it. If you listen to us, you like our content, it seems like a lot of people do, you go ahead and that's a great way to support us. Another way you can support us is our Patreon. You can find us at www.patreon.com/thecombatchain and can subscribe to us there. It is a single tier and it helps us tremendously to keep the lights and mics up and running. And we love to shout out our patrons there. So Clark J, Eugene C, Devin, Tyqueus, and Arcfire, thank you very much for your support.
Yes,
we love each and every one of you. And you can find us on Twitter, of course. The channel's handle is at The Combat Chain. You can find myself at Pat Smashgood, and you can find Adam at FomTooleryTCG. And if you didn't know, rumor has it, Twitter may implode at any second now. Whether you believe that or not, I don't know. But just in case the Twitter apocalypse does happen, you can also find me on Hive Social. We're mobile only at the moment. But Hive Social it's a social media platform. There's been kind of a big explosion of users. They went from, it's like 2 people, right? It's literally 2 people in a garage who made an app, and they just got 1 million subscribers in the last week. But I am one of them. So you can find me on Hive Social at Pat Smash Good there. My username is Pat Shaw /The Combat Chain. But there's a lot of good. The professor from Tolarian Community College jumped on Red Zone Rogues. There, a bunch of the Fab Twitter denizens are kind of leaping over there as a backup.
Well, Hive is the future.
Yeah, the Hive. Future guest Carolina Alvarado is on there tweeting up a storm.
Well, it's not tweeting anymore. What is it? Hiving?
Right.
Are we all?
Yeah, I call it stinging up a storm. I don't know what it's called. Yeah, exactly. I don't know what it is. Honeycombing? Is that what they? I'm not sure what you call that individual post. There is like a beehive thing. So maybe I don't know. But we have a big December coming up. So, this is, support us on the Patreon, get like us on the YouTube, because we have big things happening. December, we have we have Hayden Dale starting December. We have Tannen Grace and Carolina Alvarado as guests coming on in December. Not necessarily in that order. I may have gotten Tannen and Hayden backwards. I got to go check my schedule. But those 3 will kind of wrap up the month. I think for the holidays, we're going to kind of chill it on. We might take a week or so off in terms of podcasts, just Christmas and New Year's. We'll do that. We'll be streaming games. The Fab Team League is international. It goes, and it's easy to pop our heads in for an hour or so, each day or more. Whatever freedom you have there. But we'll definitely be on there, and that's exciting. We're looking forward to it. This is the stuff that we've been gritting our teeth, getting ready to really dive deep into it. We have the opportunity here. We're gonna fucking kill it, Adam. We're gonna do so good.
Yeah, I'm looking
doing
forward
this
to
shit. Can't wait. We even just the stuff that we've started doing. I'm excited about. Feels like we're running like production stuff, trying to get show notes together, call logs, schedules, all sorts of stuff that just makes it feel like it's big, right? That's the cool thing. It feels big, and that's what I like about it. All right, that is going to do it for us this week. Thank you for listening. Thank you again to Max Thomas for coming on, and I guess we're just going to do it ourselves here. So, Adam, until next week, we're closing the combat chain. Oh, we'll get it.
That felt really smooth to me. I thought we nailed it.
Oh man, I swear.
It looks good on the.
Does it? I'll believe you. You're a half second behind on my.
I might be a half second behind you. Now I'm trying to debate if I want to go put in the work to splice out Max. No, splice out Max and find him saying weird and find him saying closing and just copy paste him into.
I think he said combat chain at some point.
Did he? Okay, I might try to if I'm
weird closing the combat chain. You just get the syllabic just cuts in there. Oh man, all right, that'll do it for us. Let's wrap it up.